Aloha. Thank you for tuning in. I'm here to give you an update. The faculty and staff and I had a great meeting this morning, discussed a lot of important details, and I'm here to talk story with you a little bit and hopefully clear some things up and answer some questions. The number one thing is communication. So you should have already received an email inviting you to join Classtag. Classtag is our new app that we're going to be using for communicating with families. You can choose to get text messages or emails. Please, if you haven't done so yet, definitely sign up for that or accept the invitation. Secondly, I really want to say that, of course, the most important piece of all of our planning is you and our communication with you. Well, there are some things that we're going to be asking of you and the children and of ourselves that may seem very inconvenient or take some extra time or really add a layer of hardship even that we haven't been expecting. It's all in place so we can do everything we can to keep the kids in school. And that's really what we want, to have them here and be safe and learning and growing and developing and giving you the chance to get back to your life as well. So I want you to think about that. And when you're rushing in and it's thinking, oh, wait, I haven't done the health check. I need to do that. Oh, this is so inconvenient. I want you to think about the inconvenience of having us not be able to have kids at school and having the campus closed. So please keep that in mind. Work with us, talk with us individually if that's what it needs, what we need. Anything we can do to make sure that we can be a united team as we go forward. One of the first things I would like to talk about is school hours. So we're already looking at the possibility of shifting our school hours to alleviate some of the traffic. And now with the COVID-19 pandemic in place, we are really looking at what can we do to minimize risk and minimize exposure, not just for our children, but for all of you too, our families and our faculty and staff. And one of the things that we think would be very helpful is to stagger the drop-off and stagger the dismissal. So we're going to be doing a rolling start and a rolling dismissal. And what that means is some families will start as early as 8 o'clock, having their children here at 8 o'clock, and some as late as 8:30. I will be sending out a survey about what your preferences are instead of just dividing you up randomly or by last name or whatever. We are actually going to appeal to you and see what works best for you. We would also, and what that also means is that first half an hour of the day and that last half hour of the day, the 3 to 3:30 or the 8 to 8:30, that will be kind of a study hall, independent study kind of time. Your kids will be reading, they might be catching up on some work, meeting one-on-one with a teacher, and so on. And so you'll be signing up for either the 8 to 3 or the 8:15 to 3:15 or the 8:30 to 3:30 time. So we will reach out to you and get that set up. The other thing we're going to be asking of you, and this is one of those convenience issues, is we would like every family to do a health check on their child before coming to school. We'll have a checklist of exactly what it is you'll need. And just like we check students out at the end of the day, we're going to be checking them in as they come in. I'm very happy to let you know that Jennifer Jones, who's a parent here and has been for some time, is now going to be our resource aide. And one of the things she's going to be doing is checking in to make sure those kids have done that health check first thing in the morning. And we're really staying on top of who's here and how they're feeling, how the family is, and so on. Some of the other things I wanted to talk about are facility and program. We've made some changes in our facility, most notably, of course, the cover on the lanai. But I'm happy to report that we also have hot water now. We have a hot water tank installed. We've put signs up everywhere. We've got touchless soap dispensers in the bathrooms and timers. So we're going to train children on how long 20 seconds for washing their hands actually is, and teach them how to do that in a very safe way. And they're going to be pruny by the end of the days because we're going to be washing hands so much. That's a very, very effective way to keep yourself safe. The other thing we're doing is we're taking some of the bigger furniture out to make room so we can spread out in the classrooms a lot more. And we recently purchased these really cool things called surf desks. Let me show you. Surf desk looks like this. And how it works is the kids sit either on the floor, crisscross applesauce here, with a leg on each side, and then they have this to put their work on, or they can use this on a chair as well. And each student will be assigned a surf desk for their class, so they'll use it just them. And they're also super easy to clean. So we'll be able to use those inside, we'll be able to take them outside, and that is going to help a lot as far as being able to spread out in the classroom and use outside. So these are just a few of the things that we're working on. We've also cut down on the congregation by not having warm-ups this year, so the kids won't all be congregating into that spot where their lunches are. Each student will have their own home lunch, home snack, their own water bottle, which is going to be vital. We want to make sure that each of the classrooms has their own designated water dispensing station, so they're not, again, congregating. So anything we can do to minimize the risk is what we're going to do. Let me talk a little bit about program changes. I recently had a parent say to me, wow, Ohana meeting is so great. I love the opportunity to have the kids come together and have the leadership, but my gosh, how is that going to work? Are you going to have the whole school in one room? And I don't know about that. We don't know about that either. So, that's certainly not something that we're going to be doing. And although one of the hallmarks really of this school is the way we are able to interconnect kids, one of the things that we feel is really important is we want to make sure, at least in the coming weeks, months, and hopefully not too much longer than that, maybe the full school year, that we're making adjustments to our program to really keep the kids separate in their separate classes. And even within a class, we're going to be working on dividing them up. For example, the PE classes, Coach Dan is on board, and he's already doing some planning to make sure that he can be effective with your kids safely, without contact sports and so on. But 8 kids is a lot easier to manage than 16. So what we're going to be doing for PE, for example, is each of the classes we're going to be dividing in half. Half will be doing PE and half will be going out to the garden, and then we'll switch. So the kids will still have PE twice a week. The time frame will be a little bit shorter, more like 20, 25 minutes. But then they'll have the garden on the other side, so they'll still be outside. Another program adjustment has to do with GART. That's a lot of kids that we mix together and then put into 2 big groups. So instead, what we're looking at is doing a rotation on Fridays of Kauai has GART one week and Koa would have GART the next week. So again, if it's just the Kauai class with their 16 total, 8 will be doing garden, 8 will be doing art, and then switch, and then they'll go another week. Now, that's not to say they'll never do art other than every other Friday. We'll definitely have more opportunities for them to do some art. We're still figuring out Ohana meeting. Can't tell you exactly how that's going to look, but we've got some ideas. We will not be doing Hui Ohana right away. We're also looking at alternatives to that. Again, we don't want to just throw things out. We want to figure out how we can modify them and make them fit for this new environment that we find ourselves in. All right, let's talk a little bit about PPE. This is a face shield that we are providing for our faculty and staff. So the kids can still see their faces when they're teaching. Teachers will be wearing these during the classroom, in the classroom during the school day, largely to protect themselves and also so they don't spread germs outward. I also have this version, which can be very helpful when outside. It helps protect your face and actually has a little bit of sun protection as well. Students are certainly also welcome to wear face shields in class or outside, and that would be perfectly acceptable. They're easy to clean. They can just be wiped down. They don't fog up. They're a little warm. You don't touch your face as often. They're not quite as hot. So those would be super helpful. Now, we are not going to tell any parent that if you want your child to wear a mask in class, at school, part of the day, all day, we fully support you, and that will be fine. We do know that most of the time we will be able to keep children separate, and we do not really see a big need to wear masks in the classroom. That said, we know there will be times when we will want kids to wear masks. So it is important for you to have your child have masks available every single day. I have a suggestion for how to do that. A great thing to do would be to get 5 masks for your child, 1 for each day of the week, maybe even label them, different colors. And every day they can have their mask, and it can be a type with a band that goes around their neck, so it hangs down here and they can just put it up when they need it. It can be a collar type where they just pull it up when they need it. Now you're probably saying, okay, but Ms. Allen, when do they need it? Well, if I'm working with a small group of children and I've got them close to me, or they're working with partners on things and they've got their heads together, great time to have a mask on. If they're spread out, working independently, or if we're having a whole group discussion and they're spread out in a big circle, I don't see the need for that. When we're outside having class, I don't see the need for that. We are really going to have to look at each individual situation and figure out what really works best and how, again, we can minimize risk, minimize exposure. So one of the things that I think is really important is for you to talk to your child about this. We know that masks in some ways are not that helpful because you tend to touch your face a lot more when you're wearing a mask. And also it is kind of an invisible shield. You think that if I have a mask on, I'm fully protected and I can get right up with people. And we know that distancing is actually the safest thing you can do to really keep yourself protected. So we're going to be emphasizing that, using the outdoors as much as possible, and so on. So your child will definitely need to have a mask at school. Again, I would suggest those 5 at the end of the week, or each day they can take home their one, because we know they're going to get dirty. They're going to get grimy. So we want them to be cleaned. So if they take all 5 home at the end of the week, they can wash them, bring them back, and be ready to go for the next week. It's going to be easier to walk that back than it is to instill it. So our inclination is to be a little more conservative about when and where those kids are going to be wearing masks, and then ease up on it than it is once we get in here and say, whoa, we kind of need to have these guys have masks more because they're not staying apart like we've asked them to, or they are not following the protocols like we've asked, and now we need to implement masks. I'd rather take them back, walk that back and have us reduce mask time than increase mask time. The other thing is there's a discrepancy based on the ages of the kids. Our younger kids probably are not going to be, the masks are not going to be as effective for them. Probably more so with our older students, our 4 or 5 students. So I encourage you to talk with me, talk with your child's teacher, and really let's have a dialogue about that, about what makes the most sense. how it can be most effective. And again, my friends, we are minimizing risk and minimizing exposure. That's what we need to do. And we can do it if we work together. All right, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some of the options that are being offered by the public school. I've had some families talk with me about this, and I want to make sure I was addressing it. So the public school, is my understanding, is they are providing families an option to do online learning or their hybrid program where they go 2 days a week at the school. And some of the families have asked me, well, is that okay if we do distance learning instead of having my child come to school? So here's a couple things about that. When the public school is talking about online learning, they're not really talking about distance learning. And I really want to make a distinction there. Online learning, in their case, is I'm going to sign up to have my child be in front of a computer and complete this online program. We do not have online learning at Waimea Country School. We don't have a program that we've adopted where your child can sit down and log in and complete, an hour of math, an hour of language a day, and that's their schooling. We do have distance learning. And the distinction there for us is distance learning is completely managed by the classroom teacher. It is a way for us to continue our program without interruption, but in a way where the teacher is still in charge, still doing the lessons. Part of it would be on Zoom, part of it is recorded lessons, part of it is having a daily schedule and saying, okay, this is what we're doing today. This is what you need to do for math. And then, and by the way, this math group, I'm meeting with you for this 15-minute block on Zoom at this time, and so on. So those are some of the things that we worked out over the spring that were successful, and we want to be able to continue to do those things. However, our faculty cannot be in two places at one time. So it is on us to try to figure out that balance between distance learning and in-class learning. Now, they don't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. One of the things that we know is really important is to make sure that our students and our families are prepared to easily drop in to distance learning. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that they are prepared with the tools that they have, with the knowing how to log in, knowing what to do as far as their how to turn things in, to find out how to get help, and so on. Now we see there are probably three different ways that students will be doing distance learning this year. The first will be for just absenteeism. Your child is unwell, not well enough to school, maybe doesn't have COVID, but is running a fever. So you're keeping them home, appropriately so. Well, we don't want them to miss out, so we want to be able to make sure that we're using those distance learning systems for your child to stay current with what the expectations are. The second way that they may be doing distance learning is in a case of quarantine. Say, for example, you as a parent get exposed to the virus. Your family will have to quarantine, and that will mean your child will have to quarantine. And if your child is quarantining and they're not sick, we don't want them to miss 2 weeks of school because of they're in quarantine. Everyone else will still be here at school, and we want to use that distance learning format in those tools in order for your child to not fall behind. The third way would be if we had to close our campus and send everyone into distance learning because of a community outbreak. So for example, if a teacher tests positive, we would close the campus, drop into distance learning, and have everyone stay home for 2 weeks while we disinfect the school and we quarantine to make sure that nobody else is contagious and spreading. So we need to make sure that we have those things in place. So it is going to be very important for your child and for you to understand how that's going to work. We are going to start distance learning in the very beginning of the school year. And what I mean by that is we're going to start it here in the classroom. So when your child has to go into distance learning for whatever reason, they know what to do. And you do too. We have devices. We have, these are Fire tablets that we have for students to use. We have Chromebooks in the COA class, but we're really going to be looking for you to see if your child has a device that we can have them bring to and from school to make sure that we know how to train them to use that device. I'll be sending out a survey soon about exactly that to see who has what. So if you're a parent right now who's like, oh gosh, I'm just not ready to send my kid in, it just feels a little too risky to me, I would urge you to at least consider the first 2, 3, 4 days of school, just so we can solidify those skills and routines and protocols and methodologies so they can be successful. Because we're going to have to work hard, and in the case of our teachers, they're really going to be working hard to do double duty, manage that distance learning piece while also managing the in-class piece. So again, I don't want to put our teachers in a bind, but I want to be supportive and make sure that we are not over committing ourselves, but we are also providing what you need for your child to continue their path of growth and development. If you have any questions about this, please reach out. I would be happy to talk story with you, and we'll see what we can do to come to some consensus about what your family's needs are, what your child's needs are. So I've just thrown a bunch of information out at you that I know you need to process. And it's really important that we work on training and really thinking carefully about understanding protocol for safety. And when we have 16 kids in here at the first day of school and we're walking them all and through the processes, that's a big group. What we'd like to do instead is use the Monday sneak peek day instead of a drop-in like we've done before, where you can show up or not and make drop off school supplies, check out the classroom. Instead, what we'd like to do is schedule that time and have you come and with your child learn some of the basic protocols of how to move through the classroom, store stuff safely, and also just make sure that if there's any lingering questions or how things are going to work, we have that time in those small groups to individually discuss with you about how to make this safe. So watch for that survey coming out and that sign up coming out for that sneak peek Monday. Lastly, I just really want to reiterate my feeling that we can work together to make this work. I know the news out of the mainland is really frightening. I understand that the cases are really climbing. Just today, we had our record for the state of Hawaii. We had 60 cases today, 55 yesterday. And, I'm not immune to that. And I understand that. But I also really want to make sure that you're hearing that although we are opening our doors, and I do feel like we can manage things, it is not going to be the same as in the fall of last year. It's not going to be, oh, finally school is open. I can just bring my kids and drop them off and it's going to be just like it was before. And the fact is, it's just not, my friends. And we're really going to have to work together. You may feel like some of the things I've said today I'm kind of walking back and taking a more conservative approach than I did earlier, and that may very well be. But we also have to understand that this situation is evolving so rapidly, and we really need to do our due diligence to make sure that we are doing everything in our power to make sure we are safe here. And there is so much potential for it to go south. And I want to really make sure that we are working together, we're communicating clearly, we're reinforcing these ideas with our children. It may feel like we're very safe here on the Big Island. There were none of those 60 cases were here on the Big Island. However, we also know how rapidly things can change. So if we have these things in place, it will be much easier to loosen up than it will be to tighten up. So I encourage you to work with us. If you have any questions whatsoever, please reach out. I've been talking with a lot of folks, and I'm willing to keep the conversation going. So please help us, help you, and let's get the kids back in school. Aloha. Thank you.